Well, here we go. Introduction to painting. This is part 2, blocking in. So what I'm doing to start off here is I've mixed up just some sort of blue. Doesn't for this sort of thing, it doesn't have to be any real this or that. It could be a green, could be a red. Doesn't matter what it is. Just something to be used as what you're going to understand to be the shadow. A lot of the times when I'm painting something, I'm not actually that concerned with colour, as strange as that may sound. I sometimes just sort of create a palette as I'm going. So it could be, let's say I might be using contrasting colours, as in it could be orange and blue, or it could be red and green, or it could be yellow and purple. And so in those cases, with yellow and purple, I'd make purple into the shadows, yellows into the highlights, and as would be with the rest. So red, it could be the highlight, and green would be the shadow. You can do the opposite if you like, doesn't matter. Anyway, in this one, I'm doing a blue. So sometimes I do like to just keep within the lines a bit, but other times I do like to be a bit messy. In this case, the idea isn't to be too pedantic about what's going on and too meticulous in how we're putting the paint on. It's more about just sort of throwing down a bit of paint and also hoping for a little bit of life in the painting with the method of just sort of throwing the paint down like that. So here I'm just sort of throwing in some sort of a highlight for the leaves. That's kind of an olive green that I'm using there, and later on I pull in some sort of red. So I guess with this one it's somewhat of a full palette that I'm using. As in it would be blue, red and yellow. Eventually I throw some red in. Anyway, here we go. We're throwing in some highlights. Something I kind of like doing sometimes is, as I was saying, within this sort of approach, being fairly loose with the application of paint. Sometimes paint might just sort of accidentally land somewhere, and I'll just sort of let it roll for a little bit and see how I feel about it. Sometimes I leave it in there, sometimes I take it out, which is another point in painting. One thing that can be on the mind of the painter is, I don't want to mess this up. Well, with paint you can mess things up to some degree depending on the style of your painting, but in this style you can do all sorts of mistakes, and if you like it you can keep it. If you don't like it, you can just erase it. Well, not erase it, but you just paint it out. Anyway, so here I'm just hitting some highlights. Again, this is just blocking in. So it's just another base on top of the drawing. I do want to have a bit of the drawing showing through in the final painting. What I'm doing also is I'm using a big brush. Now I'm using a big brush to block it in. Later on, as I painted the painting, I did start using some smaller brushes, and essentially what you can do is start with a big brush and work your way down to a small brush. So begin the painting blocking in with a big brush, and as you are progressing through the painting you can work down to smaller and smaller brushes. So you're sort of refining and refining and refining and refining, if that's the way you want to go about it. A little bit more red for the dirt. So when I put down this sort of thing, a red like this, after that, as I said, this is just a base in some sense, I'll come back and put another wash over that, or just sort of add a few little marks just to sort of break it up a bit. And essentially that's what a lot of the painting is putting something on and then putting something over that, but not trying to completely cover that, but just to sort of give it a lot of movement in surfaces, planes, and and whatever else that might be happening in the painting. So now I'll show the 3 stages side by side. So we've got beginning is the charcoal drawing, and we'll have a little close-up of that. See how that looks up close. The next one is the blocking in. So you can see it's fairly roughly blocked in, but for me there's a lot of good things happening. And here's the final painting. There it is. So as you can see, there's a few things still shining through from the blocking in and from the charcoal. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks.